Welcome to the Midnight Dreary, your rest stop on the highway of the unexplained. Pull up a bar stool and grab a drink as we present tonight's episode. And here's your host, Justin Wood.
Welcome back to the Midnight Dreary. I am your host, Justin Wood, and this week's episode, a short and scary story I think you guys are going to like. But before we get into that, you know what's coming up next month. It comes up every October 31st. It's Halloween. And guess what? This year's Halloween, it's on a Friday night. That's the best. As a kid, that was great. You know, you could go out. It felt like you could stay out later. Then you could just gorge on candy all weekend. Man, you guys go ahead and prep. I'm telling you now, it's mid-September as of recording this podcast. Go to the Sam's Club, go to Costco, get your candy, look on Pinterest, go to Spirit Halloween, go to Amazon, get your costumes ready. Have them ready by October 1st because all of October, as you know, there's going to be parties, there's going to be festivities, there's going to be bar crawls, there's going to be trunk or treats, whatever fits your October and Halloween plans. Go ahead, prep, get it ready in September, and that way the whole Halloween month of October is yours. Fall weather in the deep south hasn't quite come in yet. Some of these mornings are feeling pretty good though. Not quite as crisp as I like them, but they're getting there. Football is in effect. Great kickoff. This is my favorite time of the year. I love the football, the weather, Halloween. It's right before the big holidays of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, which to me are just more stressful. Halloween is purely fun. Great movies on TV. If you have kids like I do, time to do some trick-or-treating, man. And it's the best time. And the weather is just fantastic. I love football too. All right, before I get so nostalgic and just tell you of my adoration for this month of October and Halloween and how great they are, if you're listening to the Midnight Dreary, you already know. I know you do. Let's talk about the podcast we have tonight. I love doing these short and scary stories. They're fun for me to write. They're usually rooted in truth. I have several of them. If you go back to some of the old episodes, like, subscribe. These seem to be popular with you guys. You've mentioned it in the emails that you like the short and scary stories. The downloads show that you do as well. There's several of them already listed. I have several more on deck. I keep writing more. And if you have an idea for one, or if you have one you want to submit, themidnightdreary@yahoo.com, send them my way. I'm open to ideas, open to writing them. I love them, man. These are great for listening to before Halloween, get you in the spirit. Play them at a party. Play them while you're in the car with your friends. Have fun with them, man. That's what this time of year is all about, and I hope I can be a part of it with the Midnight Dreary. So let's talk about tonight's episode and the creepy reality in which this story was born. Like I said, many of the ghost stories I tell are born from strange, real things. And this place in southern Alabama, Clark County, near a town called Carlton, is called Mount Nebo Cemetery. This is a real place, and this is what inspired the story. What makes Mount Nebo especially haunting are some of the tombstones have death masks on them, and they were created by a man named Ike Nettles Sr. between the 1930s and 1940s. What he would do, Mr. Nettles would create mud molds people's faces while they were still alive, then cast those molds in concrete with a wire reinforcement underneath to make exact facial likenesses, and then they were affixed to the gravestones. There's 4 of them in this cemetery, and it looks like they're his aunt, his daughters, and his mother. And then apparently another one that is said, a man named Manuel Burrell, who commissioned Nettles' work. So that actually sounds like 5. Yeah, and it's kind of unusual. Death masks were popular a long time ago, and I believe, this is just spouting this off of my head, I believe even up until the early 20th century, you'll see a lot of famous people. Abraham Lincoln has a death mask, I believe, George Washington, and Napoleon. I think there's several of famous historical figures. A little unusual to see them on tombstones and grave sites. So I think this story is really cool, and it's a reflection of Mount Nebo Cemetery. I've never been there, but again, southern Alabama, if you're ever off in Carlton, Alabama, which is a pretty rural site, but it's getting closer to the Gulf area. might be a cool little hotspot for paranormal activity. And maybe some good photography. Check out the death mask by Ike Nettles that are on the tombstones. So, without further ado, I present tonight's story, The Floating Faces of Hickory Hollow. In the low country of southern Alabama, there is a cemetery unlike any other, tucked in a quiet valley, shaded by rows of tall hickory trees, sits Hickory Hollow. The ground there slopes downward like the earth itself bowed under some old burden. The iron gates hang crooked, the stones lean and sink, and though the wind stirs the branches, the hollow has always been still in the way that makes the skin crawl. The cemetery was not meant to exist. It was born of tragedy. More than a century ago, the Sutter family lived on the land where Hickory Hollow now rests. They were hard-working farmers, husband, wife, and children trying to carve a living out of the soil. They had help, as was common in those days, a hired hand who lived and worked among them. Then, one autumn night, the quiet of their farm was broken by something unspeakable. The entire family was found butchered in their home. The neighbors discovered the bodies at dawn, and what they saw left them horrified. The Sutters had been murdered, their heads missing. No one knows if it was truly the farmhand who committed the crime. Some swore it was, others said it was bandits passing through, but neither he nor the missing heads were ever found. Out of both necessity and fear, the community buried the family together on a parcel of their own farm, laying the headless bodies in the ground. That resting place would become Hickory Hollow Cemetery, though few in the county ever called it holy ground. The legend began soon after. Years passed, and travelers moving by wagon or horseback would whisper of strange things seen in the hollow. On still nights, when the moon was high and the trees threw long shadows across the slope, floating spheres of light were said to drift among the stones. Faces, pale and twisted, caught between grief and rage, seemed to form inside the glow. Some called them lanterns, others swore they were souls. The brave might stop to watch from the road, but no one ever dared push open the iron gates after sundown. The hollow became a place of quiet dread, a place where locals tipped their hats, but kept their distance. Time wore on. The farmhouse rotted away. The names of the dead faded upon the stones, but the stories never stopped. Not so long ago, curiosity pulled the hollow back into the light. A group of high schoolers, working on an article for their school newspaper, decided to test the legend. With flashlights, cameras, and borrowed paranormal gadgets, they drove out one October night. They laughed at first, as teenagers do, teasing one another about ghosts and shadows. But inside the gates, the air grew heavy. Their devices clicked and screeched, the needles leaping into the red, and then came the glow. Faint at first, but then stronger. Faces grotesque and broken, rising out of the darkness, drifting toward them. The Sutters' missing heads floating free of the earth, eyes wide with sorrow and fury. The laughter ended in a heartbeat. The kids dropped their equipment and ran, swearing they felt the cold breath of the dead at their backs. They never made it more than a paragraph into the newspaper article, but the story spread all the same. Locals dismissed it as teenage exaggeration, but their tale rekindled an old fire. Historical societies dusted off records. Paranormal groups came sniffing around. Even the sheriff admitted the case, though over 100 years cold, had never truly been solved. Whispers rose again about the missing heads, about the Sutter farmhand who vanished, and about what might still be hidden in the hollow. Some say the truth is rather simple. Somewhere beneath that earth lies a burlap sack, rotting in the soil with the skulls of the murdered family still inside. Others believe the crime was darker, and the missing heads are cursed to wander until they're found. Whatever the truth, the faces remain floating. To this day, passersby still claim to see them, glowing orbs drifting between the stones, pale heads searching endlessly for the bodies that lie headless below. Hickory Hollow has never been a place of peace. It is a place of restless dead, of tragedy that seeps into the soil. And until the skulls are uncovered, until the Sutters are whole again, the floating faces of Hickory Hollow will not rest.
Thanks for stopping by the Midnight Dreary. We'll be open again next week to serve up more drinks and more mysteries. Until then, safe travels.